Hey there, and welcome. So, today we're going to dive into the incredible and really diverse cultures that were thriving in the Americas, long before Europeans ever showed up. We're going to see how people built these amazing societies, from the frozen north all the way down to the mountains of South America. Okay, let's get into it.
But first, I've got a question for you. Just take a look at these choices. If you had to pick one of these places to build your life, which one would it be? Seriously, think about it. Because that one choice, it would completely change how you find food, what your house is made of, and even how you see the world. And that choice is exactly what the first peoples of the Americas had to make.
And that actually leads us right into our first big idea. For the early peoples of North America, life was all about the land they lived on. Where you lived totally determined how you lived.
So here's the key thing to remember. These early cultures weren't just barely surviving. Nope, they were experts at using everything that was around them. They knew the forests, the rivers, the plains, inside and out. And they used all those resources to build these strong, unique societies, each one perfectly tuned to its own little corner of the continent.
This chart really shows you exactly how that connection worked. So you've got the eastern woodlands, right? Thick forests, lots of rivers. So what do? Well, you build farming towns and these massive earth mounds. Or how about the Pacific Northwest? You've got this amazing coastline packed with cedar trees and salmon. So of course, people became expert fishermen and built these huge wooden houses. Then way up in the freezing Arctic, the Inuit used ice and snow to build igloos and hunted sea mammals to live. And out on the Great Plains, and this is before horses came along, people weren't just nomads. They were farmers who built settled villages near the rivers.
And we're not just talking about small villages here. Some of these societies, like the Mississippians, built gigantic cities. I mean, take Cahokia, which was near modern-day St. Louis. At its peak, it was a massive city with over 20,000 people. Get this, it was bigger than London was at that time. It just goes to show you how organized and powerful these societies really were.
Okay, so now let's travel south a bit into what we call Mesoamerica. That's modern-day Mexico and Central America. And then even further down into South America. Because here we find societies that didn't just build big towns. They built huge, powerful empires. And that kind of makes you wonder, right? What do we even mean when we call a civilization advanced?
Well, to put it simply, a civilization is a large, organized society. It's a place that has big cities, a clear government, shared religious beliefs, and the technology to build some pretty amazing things. Keep that definition in your head as we look at a few of these incredible examples. This timeline, wow, it really gives you a sense of just how deep this history goes. We're talking about a story that kicks off with the Olmecs over 3,000 years ago. That's around the same time as the Trojan War in ancient Greece, just to give you some perspective. And it just keeps going for centuries, with all these different powerful groups rising up, like the Mayas, the Toltecs, and then eventually the famous Aztecs and Incas. You had some groups that were just brilliant thinkers. I mean, total scientists. The Olmecs are often called a mother culture because they came up with the very first writing system in the Americas and even used the idea of the number 0. Then you have the Mayas, who were amazing scientists. They made calendars that were actually more accurate than the ones being used in Europe at the time, and they built these breathtaking cities with temples lined up perfectly to track the sun and stars. And then you had the empire builders. Talk about masters of organization. The Aztecs were these powerful warriors who built their incredible capital city, Tenochtitlan, right in the middle of a lake, which is just an unbelievable piece of engineering. And down in South America, the Incas built the single largest empire in the Americas, and they connected the whole thing with a massive network of over 14,000 miles of roads snaking through the Andes Mountains. Just incredible. So let's circle back to that question. What makes these civilizations advanced? It's the whole package. It's having organized governments and huge cities. It's developing complex writing and math. And it's being brilliant engineers who could build pyramids, canals, and roads that stretched across a continent. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground. So what are the two most important things you need to remember from all of this? Let's break it down real simple.
All right, takeaway number one, and this one's huge.
The Americas were not some empty wilderness. They were filled with many, many different complex and successful societies that were thriving for thousands of years before Columbus ever set sail. From the city builders at Cahokia to the expert fishermen of the Pacific Northwest, these cultures were incredibly diverse and had deep roots. And that brings us to takeaway number 2.
The great civilizations of Mesoamerica and South America, they weren't just impressive for their region, they were true global powers. Their achievements in science, math, and engineering created these massive cities that were absolutely among the most advanced and impressive in the entire world at their peak.
And that really leaves us with one final big idea. Why does all this matter? Well, because the Olmecs, the Mayas, the Incas, and all the others, they prove that human brilliance and greatness can happen anywhere. They show us that advanced, world-changing societies developed all over the globe, reminding us that history was written by many different people, in many different places.